TV7 Israel News is made possible thanks to your generous donations. Shalom and good evening. This is TV7 Israel News broadcast to you from Jerusalem. And in today's top stories, Israel is set to send medicine, medical equipment, and generators to Ukraine over the next several days. Russia voices concern over Israeli construction plans for new communities on the Golan Heights, asserting that it does not recognize Israeli sovereignty over the disputed area. Greece highlights its unique bilateral relationship with Israel during a visit by President Yitzhak Herzog. Israel is an anchor of strength, stability, security, and hope in a hard region, saturated with both challenges and difficulties. Speaking at a graduation ceremony of IDF combat officers, Israeli Prime Minister Naftali Bennett stressed that while the world is significantly less stable, every Israeli knows that they have a home and that there is someone who will take care of them at times of trouble.
העולם הרבה פחות יציב, וגם האזור שלנו משנה את פניו מיום ליום. ימים אלה מלמדים אותנו שמלחמה בין צבאות איננה לצערנו נחלת העבר. מדינת ישראל ניצבת דווקא בימים אלה כעוגן של חוזק, של יציבות, של ביטחון ושל תקווה, באזור קשה, רווי איומים ואתגרים. כל ישראלי יודע תמיד שיש לו בית לשוב אליו, שיש מי שידאג לו בעת צרה.
Premier Bennett also seized the opportunity to reiterate a call upon Israeli citizens in Ukraine to leave the country immediately, stressing once again that Israeli representatives are present at crossings along the country's western border.
מכאן אני פונה לאזרחי ישראל שעוד לא יצאו מאוקראינה, צאו כעת, שמרו על חייכם. האנשים שלנו ממתינים לקלוט אתכם במעברי הגבול במערב המדינה. בנוסף, כל יהודייה ויהודי בכל מקום בעולם יודע שאנחנו מחכים לו כאן, ושהדלת של מדינת ישראל תמיד פתוחה.
The Israeli Prime Minister further asserted Jerusalem's determination to help Ukraine's civilian population.
אלה רגעים קשים וטרגיים, וליבנו עם אזרחי אוקראינה שנקלעו למצב הזה ללא עוול בכפם. ישראל תירתם להושיט יד בכל סיוע הומניטרי שידרש. יש לנו את היכולת ואנחנו למודי ניסיון בכך.
It is important to know that Prime Minister Bennett held a situation assessment last night, at which it was decided that Israel would send medicine, medical equipment, and generators to Ukraine over the next few days. This decision was later relayed to Kiev when Premier Bennett held a phone conversation with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky this morning. According to a statement by the Prime Minister's office, the two leaders discussed the situation in Ukraine with an emphasis on the Kiev region, and Prime Minister Bennett reiterated his hope for a speedy end to the fighting and said that he stands by the people of Ukraine in these difficult days. It is important to note that in response to the Israeli statement in which it proclaimed its support for Ukraine's territorial integrity, Russia's delegation to the United Nations published a statement condemning Israeli construction plans for new communities on the Golan Heights. In its statement, relayed by Moscow's Deputy Ambassador Dmitry Polyensky, it stressed Russia's unchanging position, according to which it does not recognize Israeli sovereignty over the Golan Heights, which Moscow regards as an inalienable part of Syria. The statement further highlighted that Russia remains convinced that a political settlement can only be achieved through launching direct negotiations of the sides. Turning to Athens, where Israeli President Yitzhak Herzog was hosted by Greek Prime Minister Kyriakos Mitsotakis, during which the latter voiced his country's unequivocal condemnation of the Russian attack on Ukraine, in line with the EU and NATO positions.
Unfortunately, your visit is coinciding with an unprecedented attack by Russia, which is violating Ukraine's sovereignty, which we condemn in the strongest possible words. What needs to happen now is for the war to stop immediately, for Russian troops to stay away from Ukrainian territory, and for Ukraine's sovereignty to be fully respected.
The Greek Prime Minister went on to assert that the matter of the Russian offensive is not about Ukraine.
This is not about Ukraine. This is about destabilizing the whole European geopolitical order. It's about, at the end of the day, it's about protecting freedom, and we will stand united in defending our values, and I'm sure that also our allies from all over the world, not just member states of the European Union or of NATO, will send a very clear and unequivocal message.
Premier Mitsotakis made these remarks ahead of a Greek Security Council meeting in which they were set to deliberate the adoption of punitive measures against Russia as part of a global US-led response, deliberations which the Israeli president voiced hope would be successful.
Like you, I'm very disturbed and very worried about the humanitarian crisis and the tragedy that will loom over so many innocent civilians and human beings. And like you, I pray and call upon all parties concerned to sit down and move towards negotiations. The government of Israel fully supports the territorial integrity of the Ukraine, and we are also worried about the Jewish community of the Ukraine and Israelis who are in the Ukraine. And I hope your deliberations will be successful.
The two leaders continued by briefly addressing bilateral relations and the need to further bolster regional cooperation amidst these tumultuous times.
It's a pity that you come in these circumstances, but let me just say, as far as our bilateral relations are concerned, that they are going from strength to strength. This is something we have discussed many times. It is a relationship I place personally particular value.
And my message to the entire region, especially this region, that all nations and that all religions, Christians, Jews, and of course Muslims, can dwell together in peace and prosperity. And clearly today's crisis only shows that we all need to be together and work together in conjunction with the goals of bettering and improving humanity and circumstances of life for all, especially for our nations.
Turning to Turkey, where President Recep Tayyip Erdogan addressed an event of his ruling AK party yesterday, during which he voiced Ankara's support for Kiev's battle to protect its territorial integrity.
Rusya'nın bugün erken saatlerde Ukrayna topraklarına başlattığı askeri harekatı kabul edilemez bulduğumuzu ve reddettiğimizi belirterek başlamak istiyorum. Uluslararası hukuka aykırı gördüğümüz bu adım, bölgenin barış, huzur ve istikrarına vurulmuş ağır bir darbedir. Türkiye'nin Ukrayna'nın toprak bütünlüğünü korumak için verdiği mücadeleyi desteklediğini biraz önce görüştüğüm Sayın Zelenski'ye de tekrar ifade ettim.
The Turkish leader continued by urging Russia and Ukraine to solve their differences through dialogue.
Derin tarihi bağlarımız ve dostluk ilişkilerimiz olan Rusya ile Ukrayna arasındaki sorunların Minsk mutabakatları çerçevesinde diyalog yoluyla çözülmesi çağrımızı tekrarlıyoruz. Nitekim dün Sayın Putin'le görüşmek suretiyle kendisine de bunları ifade etmiştim.
It is worth noting that a day prior to Erdogan's address, Ukraine urged Turkey to block Russian warships from transiting the Dardanelles and Bosphorus Straits, from the Mediterranean to the Black Sea, among other voiced demands.
Вкотре звертаюся до турецького народу, до турецької влади допомогти Україні. Закликаємо закрити повітряний простір і закрити прохід через Босфор і Дарданели для російських військових кораблів. Офіційний запит надіслано турецькій стороні. Так само закликаємо ввести санкції проти російської сторони, проти їх активів на території Туреччини і забезпечити неможливість заробітку Росією грошей на війну.
After meeting with Turkish Deputy Foreign Minister Sedat Onal, Ukraine's ambassador noted further that Turkey will evaluate the requests and respond as soon as possible. However, sources in Ankara have noted that closing the straits would likely escalate the situation in the volatile region, rendering a positive response as unlikely. It is important to explain that under a 1936 pact, Ankara has control over the straits and can limit the passage of warships during times of war or if threatened. Thank you for watching us. As part of TV7 Israel's daily prayer initiative, I would like to encourage you to unceasingly persist with prayer for the situation revolving Russia and Ukraine, alongside prayers for our persecuted brothers and sisters worldwide, in addition to our ongoing prayers for the peace of Jerusalem and the salvation of Israel. I'm Jonathan Hassan, wishing you a Shabbat Shalom U'Mevorach, and we will see you again on Monday at the same time.